Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2026. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, and I am joined once again by the one, the only Alex Kozora from SteelersDepot.com, who just got back from his fourth trip to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe to watch the fourth training camp practice of 2026. So with that, today is Saturday. It is August 1st. It is 5:35 Eastern Time in the PM. Alex, happy Saturday. Happy August to you.
Happy August, Dave, and the last day of the ramp-up period for Steelers training camp. Pads come on Monday, and so this was actually the longest stretch of camp in terms of consecutive days. 4 in a row, off day Sunday, back on Monday, but obviously the intensity is going to start to ramp up come Monday.
All right, let's see. We're going to get into a little bit of the housekeeping part of the show. There's not a lot to talk about before we do. This show is obviously sponsored by Touring Plans, has been for quite some time. Len Testa and his folks over there do a great job. Tell the people all about why they should know what Touring Plans is and why they should visit the website.
Yeah, Dave, Touring Plans, a longtime sponsor of our training camp coverage, and Len Testa, as you said, big-time Steelers fan. So happy to have them partnering with us yet again. Touring Plans uses math and science to help families save time and money at theme parks like Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Using their great app, you'll find a crowd calendar showing the best days to visit each park, step-by-step plans to avoid hours waiting in lines, views from every hotel room, and big-time discounts on theme park tickets, which I know go up basically every single year. So anytime you can score a discount for the family is a big win. So if you're planning a trip to Disney, again, to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, this is the team you want to work with. Reach out to Touring Plans at their website. It's at the top of the page on today's diary, and tell them Steelers Depot sent you.
Absolutely. And if you're on Twitter and you feel like you have a moment, reach out to @Touring Plans on Twitter. You can follow them there, and you can also shout them out and tell them thank them for being sponsors of the podcast here, the special edition episodes, as long as they have as well. All right, Alex, not really much to report on. I guess that's both good and bad when it comes to kind of injuries with this team. Mike McCarthy spoke earlier in the day, Saturday morning. He was asked about the 3 guys on PUP, those being Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, and Dante Kent. He really didn't have much of an update on those guys, no timetable as far as their returns go, but you are once again have observed all 3 of those guys out there. And then why don't you add on to that, maybe update what you saw Deshaun Elliott do or not do. And I think Darnell Savage is kind of a new one that we're watching.
Yeah, I mentioned Savage yesterday. I didn't see him work in team at all. He was dressed, but it was such a low-key practice. It was a little hard to gauge. Could that potentially be a veteran day off? Hayward and Watt got the day off. They did come back. I should have mentioned that in my notes, but it was all kind of assumed, just a little bit of rest day for them yesterday. So Savage and Elliott, they dressed. They went through individual work. I did not see them take any reps during the team period, including the 2-minute drill to close things out. And so we'll talk about it more for the Monday show, but probably a reason why this team is set to sign Rayshawn Jenkins, a veteran safety, to give them some depth while Ramsey remains on PUP and Elliott and Savage are limited in at least some regard. In terms of the PUP guys, not much new on Porter and Kent, still kind of doing some work on getting back to full health. And then Jalen Ramsey, I did see today, was going through some light jogging and stretching alongside Joey Porter Jr. So kind of the first time I've seen him do anything on the field in terms of his rehab and getting back to get off the active PUP lists. And so I don't know when these guys will come back. Does not seem like Ramsey is super, super close. I'd be pretty surprised if he was good to go for Monday. Kent, maybe, but I think, and I continue to say that I think Kent will get back before training camp ends.
All right. And you mentioned Rayshawn Jenkins there. He was one of the guys that was brought in for a free agent visit a couple of days ago. There was a report Saturday morning that he's going to be signing with the Steelers. Now, the Steelers have not officially announced that signing yet. The Saturday evening NFL transaction sheet was released by the league as well, too. He was not on that as any part of any sort of transaction. So it's not officially official yet, but there are reports out there that he is going to sign. I imagine you didn't see him out there, or obviously he wouldn't have been in a uniform because he's not officially signed yet. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. Maybe that'll happen Sunday. And obviously the Steelers will have to make some sort of reciprocal move to make room for him on the 91-man roster. So we're kind of in limbo as far as that goes. Maybe that'll happen before Alex and I get together I think we're going to record the Monday podcast late on Sunday night. So we'll see if anything transpires there. All right, Alex, anything different about the flow of practice today?
Now, it's pretty similar to the first two. The review day yesterday was obviously a different change of pace. Today was kind of the normal routine of how they practiced the first 2 days of training camp.
All right, Mike McCarthy said earlier today, that today is really kind of a wrap a bow around things, ahead of putting the pads on Monday there. Let's start with the quarterback position. What what stuck out? The good, the bad, the ugly. Take it away.
Yeah, to recap, 2 minute, which is how they finished the practice today with a full 2 minute drive for the first string. And then the second string, Aaron Rodgers leading the group 65 yards for a touchdown, hitting Pat Frymuth on a kind of back shoulder type throw down the seam, very similar to kind of the Colts play that Frymuth scored on last year. And Patrick Queen had good coverage, just no way to really defend it. So Rodgers, a big time play there to cap off the drive. Drew Aller got his first true 2 minute work of training camp and had a big fourth down conversion to A.T. Perry on a back shoulder throw down the left sideline, but the drive stalled out. Fourth and goal, about 5 yards out. It passed, I think also was intended for Perry, went incomplete. So there was some good from Aller. Certainly can sling it downfield vertically, really show off the arm. Still missing some of the layups and throws he should make. One crosser to Cole Burgess, he skipped and threw it behind. And so I don't know if maybe that's on Burgess, but it looked more like it was on Drew Aller. Will Howard, he can really throw a pretty touch pass down the seam. He hit Hurlman for a good gain. I think it was in 7-on-7, but still a really good ball. He's done that throughout camp. I think to Tunyon and other guys throughout these first couple of practices, but can he still drive the football in tight windows, vertical shots on the sidelines? Still maybe some questions there. Threw a pick to Nico Slaughter in kind of the early warm-up 11-on-11 period too, on a little half roll where Slaughter jumped the route and took it away. So there was some good and bad from Howard, and you could probably say similar about Drew Aller.
What have you noticed about Drew Aller's arm versus, say, Will Howard's arm?
Oh, it's much more live. It's pretty clear just off the jump how much quicker and how much more velocity and power there is on Aller's throws. And really, Aller kind of has looked at his best pushing the ball vertically, struggled a bit more in the short game. Howard's been a little bit more the opposite. Does get those good touch throws in that 15 to 25-yard window down the seam, can really place it in stride well over underneath coverage, but not entirely sure. Really haven't seen him drive the ball into a super tight space in terms of the ball being on a line or a downfield sideline type of throw, a little more wobble to those throws. He had his Hail Mary, I think, yesterday. They were just kind of working on some stuff, and the ball just doesn't have that classic spin on it that you would like, but still a lot more to watch with all those guys.
All right. Anything to report on Rudolph from Saturday?
No, not a whole lot to note there. I don't think he got a ton of reps today. Didn't work in the 2 minute drill. It was Rodgers and then Drew Aller as they kind of cycle through those guys. So not a big update there.
All right. What about the wide receiver position?
Yeah, a couple notes here. What do I got? Jeremy Bernard, a little tougher day. He dropped one pass off a play action over the middle on a dig route, and then kind of in the early on-air period, offense and defense work separately. The offense, they have defenders, guys wearing those little caps to show them as defenders, but just a moment where Rodgers uncorks a deep ball, Bernard kind of slows down and doesn't really realize the ball is coming his way and it's over his head, incomplete. So just want to see Bernard be able to be a little more detailed. Didn't quite get that today, but was mixing in first team and splitting some time with Roman Wilson. What else do I have here? Colbert just got a lot of action today, a lot of targets, especially from Will Howard. Joaquin Davis, just a couple of drops, even in drills, doesn't catch the ball as cleanly as other guys. So just one small note there, but he's really struggled to kind of find reps even in the 11 on 11 sessions. Guys like Levi Wentz and A.T. Perry and Brandon Smith have gotten a lot more reps than what I've seen out of Davis. And then Max Hurlman sort of doing it all as a slot receiver, but then also on the punt team. They've worked punt team on the first, second, and fourth practices, and he's been a punt returner. He's been a gunner. He's been the personal protector. He got work there today, so really showcasing his value and versatility on special teams.
The more you can do, the more you can do, right? So,
Yep, the better your chances are.
Obviously going to be a tough path for him for the 53-man roster, but not unthinkable that he could wind up back on the practice squad, right?
Absolutely, he's very much in play for that.
All right, running back. I know they're not tackling or anything like that. Anything about the rotations that stuck out?
Yeah, I know there's been some buzz about that, some discussion about Dowdle and Warren and the split there. It's still hard to really gauge with any high level of confidence because today was the first time they've even tried to run the ball at all in team 11 on 11. I mean, maybe there's a sense that Dowdle will get the early down work, the rundown type stuff he's out there for, and Warren a little more pass game oriented, but I'm just not going to make any conclusions when these guys aren't in pads yet, and the run game portion really has not been a focal point of practice. Heidenreich getting a little more burned today. Lou Nichols getting some first team running back work in the 2-minute drill. I thought that was a little interesting, but they do mix and match so much it's hard to really draw a lot of conclusions from that. But yeah, Lou Nichols in my notes more today than he has been.
All right, do you have anything on Caleb today?
No, nothing really in particular on Caleb Johnson.
All right.
One nice catch on a screen pass. It was not downfield, it was a screen pass, but over his head. I thought he just showed nice hands to bring the ball in.
I think Jalen Warren spoke to the media in one of the scrums after practice was over, and he seems to think that maybe there's still going to be backs on backers. So he's looking forward to it. Hopes there is. I guess we'll find out for sure. Maybe specifically, I guess week from tonight, right?
Well, under Tomlin, they would do it the first day in pads, so Monday,
Okay.
and then for the Friday night lights practice, they would do it again, at least most years. So McCarthy could do it a different day. He could do it once. I have no idea. So I guess we're all gonna find out together starting Monday.
All right. If you don't have anything else on the running backs, we'll go to tight ends. And today seemed to be Robert Tonyan focus day. Mike McCarthy was asked about him during the press conference this morning. Sounds like Robert, made a couple of plays and really has made it seems like a couple of plays a day in training camp so far. Tell me Tell me why I should potentially have Robert. Remember we went over our 53-man rosters recently, and I left Robert Tonyan off. Tell me why that's a bad decision, or at least at this point.
You probably heard that a lot growing up. Tell me why that's a bad decision.
Oh yeah,
Did something we won't repeat.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no guarantee he makes it, and Riley Nowakowski's been getting a lot of tight end work, and Frymuth and Washington obviously locked at the top of that depth chart. But he's a veteran guy who knows the offense, and McCarthy seems to be a fan. They signed him for a reason. He's certainly been playing over, as we mentioned, J.J. Galbraith and Lake McCree, and even Jaheim Bell. And so just having that veteran, steady presence who knows what to do if there's an injury that happens, he's going to be able to step in. And he's made some plays in the pass game. Quieter day today, but I've been talking about him a good amount the first 2 days about how active he was, all the targets he was getting, a couple plays that he's hauled in, a couple catches he's made. So we'll continue to watch. I mean, it's not like the preseason will matter a ton for him. He's a known commodity, for lack of a better phrase, but I think there's value in his experience, and Pittsburgh may want to carry that into the season.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I want to watch him, the run blocking aspect. I want to watch how they use him on special teams in the preseason here. Mike McCarthy was asked about him this morning. He says, Robert is a hell of a player, just being around him as a rookie and have always watched his career after my time with him in Green Bay. He had it right away. He's a very instinctive player. He's very natural in the pass game. You can see particularly how he attacks the middle reads, the post routes, the alley routes, and so much of that is about timing, the body language in tune with the clock of the quarterback. I think we're extremely fortunate to have Robert here. Bobby, I think the guys like to call him. He's a real good fit for how we want to play. So some real positive words from Mike McCarthy about Tonyan, and I think Tonyan had that segment with Mike Pursuta immediately after practice that I think we wrote a little bit about as well too. All right, anything else with the tight ends to discuss?
Not much. I think McCree. I mean, I know McCree had a drop today, double catch from Galbraith, but not a ton there. Those guys' chances have been pretty few and far between.
All right, offensive line. Spencer Anderson remains inside track and probably a strong one for the right guard spot, correct?
I want to be careful how I couch the strength of his stranglehold on the right guard
Okay.
spot because there has been just so much mixing and matching. I mean, it's certainly an install when they first come together as a starting five. It's been Anderson at right guard every single day, but I don't know where this thing's going to end up. And, for a padless practice, uh, four of them, two veteran guys that you're not judging too harshly at a time like this because it's just so they have so much more on their resume that's already out there. So we'll see preseason, and I'm just not going to count Hoffman out of things just yet.
Okay. What else with the offensive line? Fautanu and McCormick strictly left throughout this camp to this point.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I'm kicking myself. I was watching the second team today during their 11-on-11 period. I saw Fautanu on the first team. He false started. They pull him out. Honachor came in. I didn't see if Honachor took the rep at left tackle and directly replaced Fautanu. If Dylan Cook flipped over to left tackle, Honachor right tackle. So I had to get my eyes back to the second stringers there. So not entirely sure on that. But yeah, not a lot to note here for the offensive line. Watt did beat Honachor inside on one rep, and Herbig beat her Fautanu around the edge on another, but it's all just kind of picking moments that I really can't draw a lot of conclusions from. Doug Nestor had a good blitz pickup of Carson Bruner. I did see that today during one of the early 11-on-11 sessions. He's been working right tackle throughout training camp with the third team right tackle.
The pads coming on Monday. Maybe we'll start being able to talk a little bit more about offensive line and defensive line, which we'll move to that group next. Anything kind of earth shattering or developmental wise with that group?
No, not many impressions. Cam Hayward came back today and helped break up a screen. Kind of knew it was coming, and Rogers threw it over Hayward's head, but it was not on target for Jalen Warren and incomplete. So I will say, though, just to kind of touch on yesterday's point, Gabriel Rubio, man, he's a big guy. I mean, he looks the part. He looks good getting off the bus, and you can certainly see why, from a physical makeup standpoint, why Pittsburgh drafted him.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into the first preseason game. He ought to get a good amount of playing time. And really in all of them if he can stay healthy. The big knocks on him going back to college career there. He's got to stay healthy, and knock on wood, he has so far. So hopefully he makes it to the preseason here. And I don't know, maybe we'll be talking about 100 snaps, if not more, for him during the preseason because several of those guys you got to figure aren't going to play much, if any, at all. So anything to report on, maybe Sebastian Joseph Day. The good thing, obviously, he's out there. We kind of wondered if at the start of camp, if he might be slowed by a calf or something like that. But I assume he's taking his normal reps and all.
Yeah, he's been working a lot of nickel and then right defensive end in base. There was one interesting moment, at least interesting for me during individual period, where Sean Howe, they kind of call him the pass rush coach, at least Patrick Graham called him that once. He was working with just a group of the defensive linemen. I couldn't tell if there was a common theme between these guys. Maybe you can tell me. He was working with Sebastian Joseph Day, Asasio Tomewa, Anthony Goodlow, Dean Lowry, and Kevin Jobity Jr., and D'Amato Pecco had the rest of the guys. I don't know if there's some sort of common theme between those names. Maybe are you sensing a pattern? I couldn't think, like end tackle, pass rusher. They were kind of all the above here.
Which group was Rubio in?
He was with Pecco.
Oh, maybe those guys are considered more interior guys. Then that's the only way I can think of it is those guys maybe more consideration of interior whereas the other ones maybe from the 4-eye out or something.
Right, yeah, it could be. I mean, but also like Cam Hayward was over there, Logan Lee was over there, like your ends were over there. But yeah, I mean, these are, I guess, smaller body types. I mean, Lowry is not going to play. I mean, Lowry's a bigger guy, but yeah, just a probably worthless note, but just had some intrigue on that.
I guess that's one of those things. Just mark down something to watch and see if it continues going forward, and then let's see if we match it up. Let's match it up to our charting to where these guys line up. And you obviously chart the defense, so you'll be able to speak on that probably immediately after the first game.
I do want to note, just to backtrack a bit, I might have mentioned it, that everything's running together here after 4 days, but Nowakowski during indie work was with the tight ends, not with the
Okay.
running backs, and so I don't know if he was doing that before. I made a note to check it today. They didn't work indie yesterday, but I will keep an eye on that going forward. But we kind of had this discussion about tight end. He got a fullback rep today. He's been kind of 2-point stance near the line of scrimmage, sort of wide off. So at 11 on 11, he's kind of done a bunch of stuff. He's been split out, slot right, all that kind of stuff. But in individual work, he was with Robert Kuklu in the tight ends.
All right, outside linebackers, TJ Watt moving around, and boy, did he really move around, I guess, on one rep. I don't know, what, 10, 11 yards in a drop there, and Aaron Rodgers never saw him and basically threw him a free one, huh?
Yeah, is that clip surface? I don't know if
Yeah.
it's out there. I assume it's out there. Okay, yeah. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, Watt right outside linebacker. So the fruits of the labor of him moving around, dropping into middle zone coverage, and Rodgers didn't see him, threw over the middle. Watt picked it off and had fun running it back. So that's the goal of moving Watt around. Put him in some different positions that you wouldn't expect him to be in.
How much how many snaps roughly did you see with the three outside linebackers on the field?
I don't recall seeing them once today during the
Okay.
2-minute drill, which is when you saw it earlier in camp on, I guess, day 1. They did not use it. They had Queen and Wilson as the one pairing at inside linebacker. So maybe it happened in that first 11 on 11 session. I don't think it did, but I did not see it today.
All right, and Sawyer getting his usual reps with the two.
Yeah, still working. Mostly, I think, left side with the twos. So that's been some good reps for him. They've been, again, a lot of flipping and flopping. Herbig, a couple good rushes today, but again, once the pads come on, those guys can really start to shine through more. I saw Highsmith trying to work on that inside spin with CJ Ayu in individual work, and that's been his signature move. He's made a lot of money off of that, but it was not an effective move last year. I've talked a lot about it. I think tackles have come to expect that and counter that, and I want to see him be able to build upon that to really unlock that move for 2026.
All right, Jamin Davis still. We gonna start calling him an outside linebacker now?
Yeah, I've not seen him play at all off ball, so I think he's a full-time edge, especially because they're not especially deep at that position. So if he was playing off ball, then who else is going to play on the edge? And so unless there's a bunch of injuries inside, then he'll continue to play outside linebacker.
All right, Windman mostly inside, all
Yeah,
inside.
women I've seen off ball, haven't seen him on the edges yet.
Okay. How about the inside linebacker? Anything else? What is there been a particular side Welshoff has been playing on, or has he been mixing sides?
Say mostly right. He's been paired most often with Jamin Davis, and he's been on the left side mostly. So I think Will Shaw has probably moved around a little bit. I mean, he's played 3 years now. He's kind of bounced both spots, but I would say my eye test says right outside mostly for Welshaw.
All right. How about inside linebacker then?
Peyton Wilson, good breakup in 7-on-7 today. Eli Heidenreich running a little angle Texas route, and Wilson able to undercut it and break that up. That was sort of the highlight there for the inside backers. So not a ton of notes beyond that, but hopefully we'll learn more once you get in that real good run period come Monday.
How are you going to be able to gauge these guys with no tackling periods?
Yeah, it'll be different. I mean, to McCarthy's point, I mean, obviously it's a big change and one we've talked, I think, rightfully so about, but there's still so much more than just getting the guy to the ground. The pads can still pop, still your angles, your technique, and even under Tomlin, there really was generally just one tackling session per day, that team run period. The rest of it was the thud tackling. So there'll be a difference there. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, but I believe there certainly could still be a good evaluation you can get. Most teams don't tackle in the NFL, and they're all evaluating those guys. So I imagine we'll make do.
All right. Any update on Malik Harrison?
No, still working out there. Still clearly with the backups. I mean, it has been Holcomb filtering in with the ones, and Harrison, to my knowledge, has not gotten that work. But you've certainly seen more nickel in some of those team period 2-minute. Obviously, you're not in your base defense, which is Harrison's calling card, and so it's not been as many opportunities for him as others. So we'll see what it looks like again when the pads come on. That's when Harrison is going to shine more than probably in these pass-oriented perimeter pass game type situations that are mostly being repped right now. So we'll watch for it, but I think it's fair to say Holcomb clearly ahead of Malik Harrison right now.
All right. Let's go to the defensive backs as a whole here. Another fine day by Samuel. It's a Samuel show so far in training camp, 4 practices in, and that speaks volumes when we're talking about a guy 4 practices. Well, 3.5, or well, I don't know what you want to call the Friday one there, but I mean the fact that we're talking about one guy, particularly in the secondary, you know, this many practices in. I mean, he's obviously having a great camp, right?
Yeah, really good start in this pass-oriented session, and it's not like the DBs can really hit back too much. I mean, they're pretty limited in how much contact they can have, and Samuel's still making plays. So, in a tough environment that is offensively slanted, makes this even more impressive. Now, he's a vet. This is not anything brand new in his career, but still good to see him fully healthy and just probably playing with a lot of confidence this year after a long road back from last year's injury and kind of catching the moving train last year. But yeah, breakup on DK Metcalf in 2 minute on a curl route today. And then in, I think, 7-on-7 post route to Brandon Smith. Didn't maybe get a hand on it or didn't like tip it away, but was contesting it, leapt and high pointed the ball and really helped force the incompletion. So, I know there's some maybe speculation. Oh, could this somehow influence Joey Porter Jr. to end this hold in? That's certainly a bridge too far. But the question is there a way to get Samuel on the field in any package this year, whether that's some sort of sub package, 6 DB look on third down? Certainly, if you talk about who's your best 11 guys, I think he's going to be fairly in that conversation.
All right. What kind of camp is Brandon Eccles having so far?
Yeah, I think he's had a good camp. I mean, once you got to know him last year, it's a little less intrigue of who this guy is. Had a really good breakup on a slot fade to DK Metcalf, which I also think came with that 2 minute drill. He's given up a couple catches to Metcalf when they put him in the slot. But yeah, it's been a good camp for Brandon Nichols.
All right. What about the mix and the matching at safeties?
Yeah, there's been something made about Robert Spears Jennings getting first team work, and it's worth a note for sure for seventh round pick getting time with the ones. But if Savage isn't out there in team, and Elliott's not out there in team, and Ramsey's on PUP, you're just kind of running low on people to put out there. And, you're going to have Spears Jennings be a little more free safety type. I mean, your other options are Sebastian Castro or Jack Henderson, and Henderson's got some good burn, but I wouldn't make too much out of Spears Jennings getting that work, but it is good quality work for him to be with the ones and be in that environment and facing Aaron Rodgers and some of these top receivers. And so that's just good for his development, but it may not mean a ton going forward in terms of his permanent place with the starting lineup. Jaquan Brisker, big energy guy. Certainly you can feel that intensity immediately. And so that doesn't make plays always, but it's just good to have a guy with that sort of personality in the back end.
And Brisker had a huge crowd. I think they're having a family reunion or something like that, right? A lot of his family in the crowd today. So I think that was a topic, a storyline from the Saturday session. Who have we not talked about that needs a little bit of talking about? What about Devin Boykin or Jamel Dean?
Yeah, Dean's had a couple plays. I mean, it's been a maybe nondescript camp. He had a couple. I think it was the Saturday practice. A couple of breakups and good plays breaking on the football. So just been out there working, which is good. Yeah, Boykin's gotten more safety work, maybe one or two cornerback reps, but mostly kind of reserve safety type of work, which may again speak to the lines being a little bit thinner there because he was playing a lot of corner last year. He played safety earlier in his career, so not a whole lot to note there. Safeties can be a little tough to evaluate because they're so infrequently around the ball. Where if it's a 5 yard out, there's nothing really to note there. Joe Wood Jr. works with those guys pretty good though. He's really intense, really hands on type of coach, and from what I've seen so far, when they go into their individual work, it's Witt Jr. working with the safeties and Jason Simmons working with the cornerbacks.
All right. Anything on special teams? A little bit earlier, you mentioned Hurlman now in line with the personal protectors.
Yeah, that's a new name into the mix. We've seen Travis Homer, Eli Heidenreich get those duties the first couple of days, the first two practices, and now Hurlman throwing his hat into that ring. So, probably only two guys can work it during a game, a first group and a second group. You'd imagine it'll be Homer and Heidenreich, but we'll just see. We'll see who's healthy enough. Injuries can obviously shape things pretty good. In the kicking game, Chris Boswell, 6 of 8. He had a long from 59, which was good. He missed from 41 and 55, and then for the first time kicking field goals all camp. Laith Marjan got 3 kicks. He was good from 42, but missed from 46. It hit right off the right upright and was short from 51. I thought he had a leg in college. He was hitting from 55 plus, and so to be short from 51, not a lot of wind today to what I was able to feel. So need to show a better leg than that going forward.
All right. I'm going to put you on the spot here, and only just to use it as a line in the sand. I'm not trying to get you in trouble with listeners or anything like that.
Okay.
But who between Drew Aller and Will Howard, knowing that obviously the pads aren't on yet, or not a lot of hit, and a lot of obviously 7-7 type stuff. Which one of those two have had a better camp?
I think they've kind of been the inverse of each other, with Howard a little better underneath and Aller much better downfield, and vice versa. If you made me choose, though, I mean, the one challenge is, like, any quarterback with physical tools, it always stands out, especially
Right.
in an environment like this, and so that always catches your attention. And Allen's physical tools are just undeniably better than Will Howard. I mean, both big guys and maybe the same level of athleticism, but in terms of arm strength, Aller, just the ball really pops and jumps out of his hand much more so than Will Howard. But that's obviously just one component of many of quarterback play. So to answer your question, though, because I don't want to be that guy. I hedge a lot. I won't hedge here. Drew Aller has looked
Okay.
better than Will Howard out of the gate, but there's so much more runway to go.
Sure. I just want to use that as a line in the sand.
Sure.
So in other words, particularly from a trait standpoint, it's clear Aller has the better traits.
Right. And to be fair, we knew that
Right.
even pre-draft. Like, there was not a big secret about Drew Ellis. I mean, Tom Orth said he had the strongest arm in the class, and that's
Right.
probably a true statement. So the traits aren't surprising, but and they certainly can flash in a situation setting like this. But there's a lot more to go, a lot more behind the scenes, and I don't know how the guys are commanding the huddle and how they're relaying information that we really can't judge from afar. By the way, Mike McCarthy, during the kind of initial early period, he verbalized, stood next to Drew Aller, gave the play call, and then stepped into the huddle as Aller was giving the play call to everybody else, the other 10 offensive guys, which was interesting. McCarthy, I assume, just listening to how Aller relays that information and to his teammates. So kind of an interesting thing from a quarterback-focused coach like Mike McCarthy.
He also gave a pretty detailed answer today about, the quarterback school and the evolution start of that. We've heard that story obviously before with Paul Hackett and going back to the days in Pitt and all like that. But obviously through the changes of the CBA, he talked about how hard it is to get time with the quarterbacks, particularly I think earlier in the off season and all, and how hard it is to kind of carve out practice, time during practice to make sure he gets some time with those guys. Does it seem like he's just kind of fluidly trying to get in that little bit of extra time with the quarterbacks where he can during these practices?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly is around them most of the time, and I think I mentioned it's in my notes a lot. I have a picture today to give the visual of it, that there's that one handheld camera that a staffer runs around with, and it's always focused on the quarterbacks, and it's always pointed at the quarterbacks, even in the passing drills. It's not taking downfield really views. It really wants to focus in on the quarterbacks and building that profile tape and their technique and main mechanics. So yeah, certainly McCarthy has been as advertised in that regard, spending plenty of time with the quarterbacks. Yesterday's practice day, and with the twos working on the middle field. Angelico worked with the starters and Rogers and Rudolph, and McCarthy was right there talking to Howard and Aller to give the play call. So just all the attention, a lot of pouring into those guys, as Pittsburgh should, because these are two guys with traits and ability, and Pittsburgh needs to maximize and find out what they have and what they don't have.
All right, Sunday's an off day. Any gigantic, just loose takeaways after these first four padless practices, either side of the ball? Anything, maybe schematically or anything that kind of helps you sum up maybe on each side of the ball real quick?
Yeah, offensively, could see some more under center work, kind of the true West Coast principles. I mean, the overall, style and schedule of practice is different. It's certainly slowed down a lot from day number one, but it's still a departure from Mike Tomlin in many ways. I'll detail it at some point. I want to watch a padded practice and see what that looks like before I write something on that. And then, defensively, the play of Asante Samuel Jr. is impossible to ignore. Schematically, have I been able to identify a lot of changes? No, it's hard to watching it live, and they're not reinventing the wheel. They've talked about that throughout the offseason, but, Watt moving around a little bit, the 3 outside linebacker package, just some of those things are, things we've been noting so far.
All right. Enjoy working from home on Sunday. You'll be back out there on Monday. You and I will record a Monday podcast, probably late Sunday night, and then we will reconvene after that on Monday evening when you get back from Latrobe and write up your daily diary. And for those that have not read it, Alex goes in a lot more detail than what we just talked about on this podcast on the daily diary. That's up on SteelersDepot.com. and pinned to the top section of the website. Hopefully everybody reads those either before or after or during listening to this special edition of the episode or of the Terrible Podcast. So with that, we will have a Monday show, likely record that on Sunday night, and then we'll be back Monday evening to recap what Alex observed during training camp practice, the first padded practice of 2026. So you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, hit that ad-free button and follow the directions that way. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2026 with Dave and Alex.